What's up, humans? Welcome back to the Human Music Podcast. I'm Luke Rain, and this is episode 71, DJ Discussions. This week, we're tackling some important DJ discussions like, why are CDJs so damn expensive? How do you get past nervousness when starting a set? What are the best ways to prep your tracks? And why the hell are CDJs so damn expensive? For real! The song of the week behind me is Tesko featuring Squashed Out called For the Homies. Go down below to get those links and support the homies on their release. Super dope tune that we brought up in a story during the episode. Also, while you're down there, why not go support our sponsors? There's some really good producer resources that we all use and you can too, like Dojo TV, free producer live stream classes from the Producer Dojo Senseis. Or the weekly download, where you can learn from Il Gates in his private weekly group lessons and get access to over 250 more episodes in the archive for just $20 a month. And finally, guest practices, where you can learn from Seth Drake at the Approach Institute. He's the best engineer we know, and your first class with him over there is free. Visit thehumanmusicpodcast.com to get our free sound packs, check out our socials, and if you want to hit us up on the web at The Human Music Podcast or at Human Music Pod on Twitter. All right, let's get into this episode. We got a bunch to cover.
Hello, people of Earth. This is Tesko with Rip Kenny and Trap Jesus, and you're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
Human Music Podcast. I like it.
Your computer just sucks dick for money in an alley.
I heard that about it. When
How
the
much,
keyboard stopped. With the keyboard, remember the keyboard wasn't working? Yeah, it fucking stopped working, and then it started working again randomly one day for weeks, and then it just yesterday just stopped working again. So I got this big chunky fucker sitting on top of my laptop keyboard again.
Filled with
Yay!
unspeakable things.
I mean, you can speak about them if you want to. I check the explicit box on the podcast every time we go out. Cool. So, you talk about whatever kind of bodily fluids you feel like on here, man. We're set. Parental advisory, you know what's up. Listen to this with your parents and hear about unspeakable things in keyboards.
Did the record stores ever not let someone buy it because they didn't have a parent with them if it said that on it? Really?
Yeah. High key, I went with my sibling to Tower Records in what must have been 2003-ish, because I'm pretty sure I was 18, and I tried to have them buy the Tenacious D album, the original first one, and they would not let us buy it, even though I was 18, because my sibling was under 18 with me. And they were like, sorry, you cannot buy this record.
But you're the parent in that situation.
That's what I thought. I thought oh yeah, I'm over 18, so I can be here. But nope, it literally has to be a parent with the child, according to that guy who worked at Tower Records in 2003. And
to that guy, fuck.
But here, yeah, right. But here's the good part of the story: is what we ended up buying instead was Linkin Park's Reanimation album, which is fucking badass. So it's
okay,
that's a hell of a consolation
Let's fucking talk
prize.
About that.
Amen.
That album is so ahead of its time. It's not even funny. The music itself isn't earth-shatteringly good. It's not as good as Hybrid Theory, right? It's different. But a rock band doing an entire electronic-based, hip-hop influenced remix album, getting different hip-hop artists to rap over remixed beats, chopping up the main lyrics with full hands-on production from the actual band themselves. Who had done that before them, and who has done it since in the alt metal or metal world?
Yeah.
Give me one fucking band.
I can't think of anybody. I mean, it feels like that was the blueprint for your whole style in some seedy kind of, seated kind of ways, where it's like, oh man, this amazing new metal music that then gets like chopped, stuttered, fucking bassified, like that sounds like some Rip Kenny shit looking back.
It is. I mean, it's not a surprise that I think that album's sick. But like really though, like metal artists will have, maybe an electronic person do a remix on like a remix album, but remix albums in the metal world are already like super rare. And definitely not one where they like go through and like basically make another album themselves while getting other people and other artists on it. Like, it's like the weirdest, coolest enigma combination album thing that ever like I didn't actually find out about it until after like Meteora came out, and I was like, Minutes to Midnight. I think Minutes to Midnight came out, and I was like, man, this is not as good as the other two. Let me look like what is all the music that Linkin Park has made, and I was like, what the fuck is this Reanimation thing that's got a Gundam Wing character on the front? Like, what? Like, I don't know if y'all were into that, but like when I was little anime cartoon watching youngster Evan, I thought Gundam Wing was tight as fuck, dude.
I didn't get super into it, but I definitely watched it there for a couple of years. I definitely
it was a short-lived period, but I was so into that shit. I bought like the fucking action figures
and everything,
glue together shit from the store. And you know what's funny? If you look at the music video for, I don't know, one of the songs on Hybrid Theory, it starts like in Chester's room, and he's got those Gundam Wing action figures on a shelf, and I was like, that's cool. I always thought it was interesting.
The super fan chord in your heart.
It did. I mean, it's all just destiny. I always thought it was so funny how Linkin Park,
but not the pick of destiny, because we could not buy that Tenacious D album that day. Fucking Tower Records, man. I'm glad you're dead.
Yeah, eat the garbage.
Although I did get a lot of dope records there back in the day. A lot of CD singles of rap songs. Bought the Mark Morrison Return of the Mac CD single at that, and the Freak Nasty Da Dip.
What the hell do you do with a CD single?
Like
put it in a CDJ one at a time.
I mean, kind of. All this, but all the CD singles were like, it was like, okay, here's the radio version, here's the dirty mix, here's the extended club mix, and here's the remix, or maybe the instrumental was on there or something. So it was like buying like a vinyl single that has like multiple versions, and some of them had B-sides.
That's cool.
So that's like, what the CD single was. It was.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know, but like a vinyl, like, dub record or something, like a wax plate. They only a few, like, I understand like making pressings for like one song with that, but like a CD, like you're gonna go to
it was all times, different times.
I mean, literally every era through every type of medium has had singles. Like back in the day, they just put them on like 45s. And then after that, they were like, oh, actually, we can do like a maxi 12-inch that has like, you run it at 45, but it's a 12-inch. And then we can stick 2 songs on each side. And then there were like cassette singles. And then there were CD singles. And then eventually you could buy MP3s one off, and it didn't matter whether it was a single.
The CD single phase was such a little awkward period of time, because like most DJs probably still had like vinyl records. And then there was probably actually like a couple year period where CDs were the predominant thing that DJs would bring and play on CDJs, right? But like, what a funny image, like some guy sorting through like a big book of fucking CDs with like 4 on a page, flipping them. No. What does that say? It's fucking dark in this club, man. Like, you don't have a phone with a light on it. Like, what did you bring, a flashlight to like?
Hell yeah! You gotta keep that in your DJ kit. That's a
Like,
life tip right now.
that shit
for
is
whoever
so funny to think about.
Nah, the fucking XDJ screen lights right up, man.
Hey, you can't
Yo.
rely on having that, man.
I mean,
You might get the CDJ2s.
yeah, at least with the USB, I can just flip it around 3 different times till I finally figure out the right way to put it in. Like with a CD,
Right.
there's like too much. There's too much reading of titles and what tracks I've got on what, like Summer Mix 2017, like bangers. Like, oh fuck,
That sounds fire.
is that
Now,
Aphex
see, that's
Twin
why you
joint
more
on
printed
like
out.
this?
No, that's why
2007.
you had to print
Yeah, that's what I
out like
meant,
the little
2000.
piece of paper and cut it so that it would fit behind the CD. So you pulled a CD out, and then you could see the track
bro.
listing on the CD. Now,
Let's
Hagi,
do
like I
500 IQ.
when I was like 13, I literally I have strong memories. There was these like warehouse parties for like middle and high school students in Seattle that now in the area where like Amazon and Fred Hutchinson and everything's taken over down there by South Lake Union, but there used to be all these shitty warehouses out there, and people would rent them out for dances and kids dances and raves and shit. And I remember the first time I ever watched somebody work CDJs was at one of these parties, and we like kept running up. Me and my buddies kept running up and like asking for requests and shit, and just watching this guy like literally exactly what you said, flipping through the huge book with 4 CDs on a page and being like, oh yeah, I think it's back here. Okay, cool. Yeah, what track is it? Oh yeah, on this mix CDR, it is track number 13 to play No Diggity for you kids. And yeah, that's exactly you called out exactly what it was. And you know, I mean, if you're using CD singles and you're popping over here with one CD, you know you're gonna play that whole fucking song start to finish by the time you figure out what your next track is. You know, but that's how people used to DJ like the whole song more often back in the day when it was harder to DJ.
I just realized that's why they still have 4 CDJs. Oh my god, why would you have? No one uses like maybe 3, like maybe Andy C uses 3 because he does some like triple edit mashup shit on the fly.
Bill
like
Gates uses 3,
but 4?
Yeah,
who
I've never
uses
actually
4?
watched anybody use
the
4.
4th one only makes sense when you found the CD of the song you want to play 2 songs from now, but you're using the other. Like, you probably still don't need the 3rd. Like, you might need the 3rd, but the 4th one only makes sense when you have a CD and you got to load it in there and you're like, it's going to take too long before I transition. Oh man.
Yep.
Oh
yeah,
man. Speaking of CDJs, why the fuck are they still so expensive? All I want to do is buy a standard CDJ club setup, CDJ 2000 Nexus 2 and a DJM 900 mixer, Nexus 2, the same thing that exists in every fucking club ever. All I want to do is have that to practice on at home. And you can't even find a used setup for less than $6,000 with all that shit.
I was about to throw out the number $6,000. Yeah.
What? Like brand new on Sweetwater, you can get it for $7,000, and everyone used is selling them for $6,000 with fucking beer spilled all over it. And I'm like, come on. Like, I can't justify $6,000 for used when new is $7,000, and I could finance it through Sweetwater if I really wanted to get hood rich with it. I can't justify that, dude. Are you joking? Do you know how much shit I could have for $7,000 that would make me a better artist before CDJs? Like, what? Why?
Because they know musicians will do it. They know that we'll just bend over and take
Pioneer.
They're playing off of that.
Dirty whore. Why?
I mean, they had a monopoly for so long too. That's the thing. Like now, Denon is actually like getting in the competition.
How much does a Denon setup cost?
Way less. Like half.
How much?
Half the price, if I remember correctly, ish. Like significantly less. Like
I think the real fair price for that setup is $1,500.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck kind of supercomputer they think they're putting in there. I know it's not a fucking supercomputer. If I could,
literally, Christ, if you had a turntable you could plug into Spotify on your phone, that would be same shit, if not better.
Dude, I spent less than half of the cost of new CDJs on the iMac desktop computer that I have that is so fucking powerful I can run almost unlimited tracks in Ableton. and do God knows what at the same time, and a
Watch
fucking little sample it and watch it and make the music for me. That costs less than half of a setup which has a chip that plays MP3s and waves, but not 24-bit waves. Only 16, because 24 would use too much processing, motherfucker. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me,
You also have
dude?
to consider the time frames in which they were made too, though.
I'm not going to consider shit. This thing is too expensive. It needs to be more than a quarter off.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, but Pioneer ain't gonna do shit. What you should do is become so big and become the CEO of Pioneer, and then propose the idea that maybe they don't make their products like complete shit and just make them like reasonably priced shit.
I
just don't understand how what they already make
suck it up like everybody else.
What they already make should be a quarter of the cost to me, brand new. I just
but
don't understand.
Gonna buy it.
I haven't. I'm probably not.
But you might. A lot of people still will.
When I make my first $7,000 from playing shows, I'm probably still not going to buy a goddamn CDJ setup. Like, what the hell? Like,
it's like that whole idea that the real money to be made in whatever you're doing is in selling the dream to other people.
Oh my god! Right?
It's the like quote unquote.
Don't go pan for gold. Sell picks and shovels in San Francisco or Seattle.
Rent hotel rooms, all that. Like I feel like they're doing kind of the same thing too, where it's like obviously the clubs will afford it, whatever. I mean, I think that part of them having a monopoly for a long time is a huge factor in this, and we're gonna see a change. But the way things currently stand, like a lot of musicians, like will work and save up for a long time and will go through that struggle just because they're committed to making it a thing. And Pioneer knows that, and they know that their audience is going to be clubs that have that kind of money and people that have that kind of money and or will aspire to get that kind of money to buy their product. They don't really give a shit about me and you, but it feels like Denon does give more of a shit. And even if they're not the savior to opening up this monopoly, the long time monopoly that Pioneers had, they might be like the first company that gets the momentum rolling in that direction. So I think once there is some kind of standardized format to like assigning cue points and doing all of the like quote unquote record box shit among different kind of softwares and stuff like that, it'll be a wrap. And I think
that'll even happen though.
No, dude, I think
I don't think there's incentive to make it happen.
Unfortunately.
The thing with Denon is, for example, they made like so you can import all your record box data into their software. For example,
what's their software even called?
I forget now. I used to have a Denon controller, and I honestly can't remember. But I mean, at least that is something that's like a step in the right direction, you know?
It's called Vinyl Crate. It's totally different than record box.
Yeah, I mean, dude, unfortunately, like
I don't know, I made that up.
No, I know. I was segueing.
I know. No, he asked. Go for it, Evan. Engine Prime.
Yeah,
that's a dumb name.
Unfortunately, everyone that I've talked to that used Denon stuff loves it. The sad part is that no club with a significant amount of money on the line booking all these artists is going to risk having a setup that some artist shows up and goes, what the fuck is this? I only play on Pioneer stuff because that's what I know, and they don't want to fuck up their set and make us think about like no one's ever going to take that chance unless they talk to and even if they talk to the artist beforehand, the artist is probably like, no, I don't know how to play on that. Like
that's the thing is
so sad.
The translatability between them and CDJs is like it's pretty much the same experience, and also being able to like import all of your song information really does help make it seamless.
No, I know. That's the saddest part is that all can be true. Like it literally could be a 1-for-1 like interchangeable experience, but the people with the money on the line still aren't going to go, it's worth it to get the one that's half as expensive because some hoity-toity artist, like only the snobbiest 10% would show up and be like, what the fuck is this? I'm not playing. and ruin your establishment. Like it's so sad. Like like even shittier is what you said, Luke, is true. Like if I lived in Bend now when I was learning how to DJ and like didn't have some friends that were promoters at the time that let me sneak into the club at 8 p.m. and practice on the CDJs for an hour or play 10 or 15 opening slots at 9:30 when the club just opened and no one's there, and train wreck multiple times on a CDJ setup that was non-Nexus, and I had to beat match different tempos I didn't know how to do on CDJ. Like that cutting your teeth is like the only reason that I haven't bought them, because now I'm confident that I can show up and play what I need to.
Yeah,
like
me too.
I can operate them as I'm not doing anything fancy. Like I'm not doing crazy stuff. I'm not Nero making a loop and pushing the tempo all the way down and using the low pass filter to make a bass line like on the fly just for the shits of it between songs. I'm not doing that, but I can do what I need to, which is like the whole I don't want to feel like I can just do what I need to. I want to feel like I'm in my element, that I'm just like comfortable with everything, not tiptoeing around any buttons. And that's why I almost did finance some the other day. I was like, fuck, if I'm going to make a go at this, like I need to be like flawless on these things. Like I can't show up and like train wreck when people have paid me actual real $1,000+ sums to play, like whenever that happens eventually. And I still came to the conclusion, like, man, I don't know if I can ever justify that cost.
I don't think I can, man. Like, I mean, especially, I want to throw this out to y'all. For the $5,000 price difference, what's the actual difference between two CDJs and a mixer and an XDJ? Like, practically speaking. Because I can't figure out why somebody, like, I love playing on XDJs. They're great. Like, I like them better than most of the CDJs I've played on.
Me too.
And I'm sure, like, okay, so you really want to get that specific mixer that has these specific effects you need or whatever. Okay, whatever, maybe. But bump it up to the highest level XDJ and it has like 8 or 10 effects on it, and you still save yourself $4,500.
The issue is that it's just not the exact same as what you play when the stakes are really high. And that is literally the only thing, is that it's not all the same buttons in all the same places with all of the same functions.
The right curves and all the right places.
Stuff operates differently. Like the waveforms are on top of each other rather than separate left and right. Like there's enough of a difference that it's not the exact same. And that's they know that. They have you by the balls. They're never gonna make. And
that's another thing too. That part you just brought up, that on an XDJ the waveforms are on top of each other, and on a CDJ they're 2 feet apart. Like that's worse on the more expensive system. That's like a dumber way to make your shit happen.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Like, so why am I paying 5 extra grand for that? I'll play on a CDJ. I've played on CDJs. But here's the thing. The first time I ever played on CDJs was, I've said it on the podcast before, when I opened for Ill Gates. I showed up at soundcheck, learned how to plug them in, had a weird issue. Torbjorn showed up.
Yeah, I was going to say it was Torbjorn, right?
That's how you fix that shit. Yeah, I met Torbjorn that day. And he's like, oh yeah, just here, press this button and the thing won't just like keep repeating when you hit stop. And then, cool, I won't press that button again.
Wait, what button is that?
There was like a button that took him from like vinyl mode to slit mode or digital mode or some other kind of mode.
Yeah. There's something that's like vinyl or CDJ or something.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was that button. And when it's on CDJ mode and you hit stop, it'll just keep looping like an eighth note.
What?
Yeah. Like loud as the song. You press stop and it just goes, it's like just
why?
like the worst fucking thing ever. Why would you ever need this, you ask? I asked that too. Well, it was blaring through the sound system at sound check, and nobody at the venue knew how to handle it. Luckily, literally right then, Torbjorn walked in for his sound check. And I was like, oh yeah, this button.
Thank God.
So, yeah. Shouts out Torbjorn. Friend
Shouts
of
out
the pod.
Torbjorn. Good
Man, that's
good
the
dude.
thing about
All around
CDJs.
good
I
guy.
remember my first experience playing on them. Something goes wrong, and you're just like, "Fuck! I thought I was prepared." And you just have like a mini heart attack until the savior comes through. You're just pressing random shit.
Yeah. Man, I mean, honestly, like the differences between all the systems has like changed my DJ style. Like I used to try and like use the sync. So like during my transition, I could set one of the decks to the master tempo and slide both of them up. So by the time the drop hits, the new drop's at the right tempo, and I didn't have to like shift the old song before it was the transition. And and I would do all these extra things that I, just learned on my own deck that I could do. And then I went on somebody else's deck and was like, I don't know how to do that. All right, fuck it. I'll just like manually tempo match, just nudge the thing. Hey, they're at the same ish percentage of offness. And now I can just blend them normally. And then like maybe for drop 2, I'll bump it up, or maybe I'll bump the other track up to the track that I'm about to go into, or like, nobody knows the difference. It doesn't matter. And so now I've just gone this whole route of just like, what's the simplest way I can do this? Like, everyone has a different way that like the loop works a little bit differently on each deck. So I just don't really use the loop feature very much.
Neither do I. And that's such a useful feature. Like when I practice or like make DJ mixes, like on my XDJ controller or whatever, the one that came, not an XDJ,
DDJ,
yeah, the one that came before.
That's what I rock here too.
The Didge,
yeah, still $1,000. Fuck you, Pioneer.
Did you get the 1,000?
Yeah,
I got the little POS like 300 over here for a couple $100. I was like, I just needed to set my cue points and like do practice. I don't care.
Yeah, but still, like I'm sure the loop on that is simpler than a CDJ, and the touchscreen on a CDJ is not so responsive that it like makes it super seamless. Like it's a weird thing to get a loop on a CDJ, and the way that the loop goes in and out is like not intuitive. Like on the controller, it's so simple. And so like you can loop a section of the song that has like, maybe like a long, like vocal, like bit with like one chord, and you can like loop that and then like bring it down and like filter it out in the background and then bring it back up like a minute later as the next song's about to hit the drop. And you're like, whoa, where'd that song come from again? And then you spin the record back and fucking turn it off, and then it's boom into the next drop. Like that shit should be easy on every system you play, but fuck you, Pioneer.
Yep. Yeah. I 100% agree.
Big up, chat.
So why would it be?
Let's get some comments if y'all have hilarious train wreck stories from Pioneer stuff, doing things that you didn't know how to change in the moment, or you just don't like Pioneer and their bad business practices that screws over the independent artist that can't pay $7,000.
I was playing on a friend. Shouts out to Transcendent Squad Father. They've been letting me play on their gear lately. They got a DDJ 1000 and an XDJ. I keep picking. I played on the DDJ once, and I've been playing on their new XDJ more. And it's a blast. I love it, but there's one feature I just like haven't ever bothered to figure out how to turn off. It's the one where it auto loads the next track when a track ends. Which, if you want to walk away from the XDJ and just let it play through your playlist while you go have a drink, that's a really great feature because a song ends and then right then seamlessly the next song starts on the next downbeat. It's great for that. But as soon as you're done with your transition, if that song doesn't have like a long ring out, the next song just starts playing. So you have to be like on top of turning the volume down on the track you just mixed out of instantly. Because there's so many times where I'm like, oh yeah, vibing, and somebody's like trying to hand me a joint on stage or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Oh shit, turn that off.
That's terrible, man. I mean, it's the same thing on CDJs. I had a gig where autoplay was on, so you load a track and it instantly starts playing. It doesn't just stay at the start. Like, I don't just hit load and expect that I hit the load button at the right
beat,
time.
Right?
That's on beat.
To compensate for the delay of the loading time
of your shitty computer that costs $3,000. I didn't think about that. Why is the song playing already? Then I have to put my hand on the platter, stop dancing and use way too much brain power, spin it back, hit the Q button so it's like at the start, but I didn't get it right. So then I have to play it, press another Q, because if I try to back it up just a tiny bit and hit Q again, it goes to the Q that was already there. And by now I've stopped dancing entirely. I'm not even bobbing my head. I'm just squinting at the fucking CDJ trying to figure out what I'm doing. Not having a good time. Fuck you, Pioneer.
Oh man, no, I feel you. That the way Q points work are pretty silly too. You guys are telling me you gotta like spin it back at least a whole revolution before you can like reset a Q point or something, right? Is that?
Yeah. What?
I don't even know. I just literally never use that feature. I set hot cues. I am like that is my like record box religion is hot cues. That's pretty much all I use because I know no matter what, every single Pioneer system will have at least 3 hot cue buttons. And most of them have 8 these days that I play on. Yeah. And so it's like, oh yeah, cool. Set A, B, and C at my really obvious. These are where I'd probably definitely transition in and out of a song. So even if I'm on old ass CDJs, I can use A, B, and C. And then if there's other cool spots that I maybe might want to start, or maybe just want to mark like where the end of a drop is or something, or where another little bridge is, just in case I want to get out of a song. I know like, oh yeah, that cue point's coming up. Nobody's feeling this song. I can get out of here at that. I could probably transition at that moment, you know? And that's straight from Ill Gates, you know, like he had his weekly download on what to do to prep your tracks in Record Box. And he was like, yo, just set those A, B, and C to like the beginning of the intro, the beginning of the breakdown, the beginning of the outro. Pick good songs and have your transitions between songs be short. Yeah, that's like pretty much his 3-step advice, and it has never not served me.
This is a good segue. We've bitched enough about DJing. Let's talk about best practices. Let's talk about best practices. One thing that I have found absolutely transformational is splitting your tracks up into like chunks of like vibe, right? So like hard left field bass, neuro, like old school dubstep, like guitar influenced dubstep. And I have like these folders of, you know, maybe 20, 30 songs that if I, you know, am feeling like going into that vibe, then you have a bunch of other songs in that similar lane that you can play. And then a good rule of thumb that I learned from, I think it was like a Laid Back Luke YouTube tutorial on DJing like forever ago. Like if you play a certain genre of song, play 3 songs of that genre. So that it makes sense, right? So you have like continuity in like your flavor as you transition through the set. And I always found that super useful. And also like just generally like crowds respond really, really well to that. You know, if you go into like old school dubstep, like play 3 songs there, enough that the first one is like shocking because it's like a change in pace. The next one is like, oh shit, like now I'm in this like vibe. And then the third one is like, this is tight too. And then you transition to something else and it's the same effect 3 songs in a row again. And it just seems to like, it just flows. It flows really well. And especially if you're conscious of like groupings of tempos, right? So for instance, in like hard left field, I know that I have a bunch at 80, a bunch at 85, and a bunch at 87, and a few sprinkled between like 81, 83, 90. And so like, you know, that like if you land on an 85 in hard left field, like between 85 and 80 is actually a decently big tempo swing. So I'm not just going to like crank into an 85 from an 80. Like I'm probably going to want to play a few in the 80 to 81, 79 range before I start trying to transition into other stuff. And normally I find that like some songs that have like an ambient intro like are better for transitioning into a new tempo rather than trying to like slow down a song while it's playing, because it's just less. It's really easy to notice when a song is slowing down, and then it feels like you're slowing down the energy of the set.
Mhm.
You know, that's why most people start their set tempo low and then just continually go up to the top.
Yeah, I
it's
do that a
done.
lot.
But I like doing that, except the vibe and the speed aren't necessarily linked 100%, right? So like
Mhm.
there's a lot of songs with a certain vibe that I would like to play that I would say is more energetic or more fits the time that I'm trying to play it, but it comes after an 85. Then there's some 80 BPM songs that are like harder hitting or whatever that I want to play later. But if I just like slow it down into that, then it's like it just feels like you brought everything down a little bit. So having some songs that have more of like an ambient no beat intro, and you can like reverb and delay out like the breakdown or the outro of one song and hit start on the next one. And it's that perfect moment that we've talked about before, that like as one like fades out and the next one comes in and there's like no beat or anything, without fail, that is always when people in the crowd will clap or like give a little woo, or like there's
Yes.
always
they
some
will.
sort of blank space filled by the crowd. It's like with like literally every time. So funny. But that there's nothing wrong with those moments, right?
Nah, and knowing those, blending tracks is a great and the most obvious way to get from track A to B, but it's far from the only way to do it. Like you're saying, like sometimes you just know your certain tracks just ring out or have like a really chill intro, and those songs can be right before / right after anything, or like I was reading this about like certain old school tracks. Like think about "Jump Around" by House of Pain. It just starts bum 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 bum.
Perfect transitional.
Like you can literally drop that at any time. You go wheel back, hit that record,
Dude,
and it's a complete reset button.
How many times have you actually heard a DJ do that? Like all the time. Like that record in particular. Like even that transition, the bum 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 bum, and then they'll play something else. Like they'll use that as like a transitional element that they just scab onto the front of one of their songs that they want to play. That's like a weird tempo or whatever. And then it's like easy transition and like a switch up. The crowd like thought one thing was coming, but having those songs that do that well are important. And it's one thing that I always thought like I should be a good enough DJ to play like any two records back to back pretty much, right? Like I should be able to like smooth them to like make it work, right? No. Just some tracks just don't work next to each other. And that's why you got to practice bits of your set beforehand. Don't like practice the whole thing and then show up and play the exact same thing. Like practice transitioning from this chunk that you have a bunch of songs into the next chunk and be like, okay, that actually did not work. Like I need a song that has more of an ambient intro, or, like this song didn't sound like it would work, but that vocal like blends really well with this one, and like they trade off, and like, wow, I didn't expect that would work. That's why you got to practice those transitions between chunks, but then like read the crowd for like what the next chunk should be, or what song within a given chunk should come next.
Yeah.
One thing with the chunks too that I find really handy, especially if I'm like playing more obscure stuff, is to just have a folder of remixes of just shit that everybody knows, like a cool bass music remix of Billie Eilish or Weeknd's The Hills or some Poppin' Drake song or something like that. Or honestly, it could be anything. It could be All American Rejects. It could be anything from like that nostalgic era where it's going to perk everybody's ear. Like Toxic by Britney Spears, bro. You just drop that in for shits after you start losing people even slightly. Whole room is engaged suddenly. I know that's not everybody's style, but something to consider. Like if you're ever feeling anxious for a show or you're playing to a mixed crowd of people, like you literally can never go wrong. Just every 4 or 5 songs, just throw a Drake tune in there or like something like that. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I've got a bunch
honestly,
of cool
that
ass.
and house music, you'll never fail.
I've got a bunch of cool ass like remixes and bootlegs and mashups and stuff I got off BPM Supreme. Just like so many people have made really cool mashups that they got up on there. And like they do, like you said, they do so well. People are like, oh, I know this chorus. I'll sing along. You're like, wait, what's that? Oh shit, it's Bass House. Like they're so
Dude,
excited.
actually, like legit. Like when I DJ'd house music, like without fail, a record that would always go off is the Shiba-san bootleg of Started From the Bottom by Drake.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
I had
like,
that on my USB for a long time too.
And it's like
Slapper.
a certified always works song.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up a way, like I think the way you've been describing to like have the chunks, I think that's a super dope idea. I've also heard Illgates talk about that. So, you know, tried and true by the masters over there. I've got like a bit of a different way I've been doing it that's been working really well for me. I'll like, you know, when I get the news that I'm going to be playing a specific show, I think like, okay, who else is on this? Where is it? What time am I playing? So what's my vibe out of what I like? You know, like if I'm playing at 2 a.m. at like a rager party, I'm going to put on a very different set than if I'm playing at 6 p.m. at a barbecue party. Right.
Very
and
different.
then each time I make that, now that set just exists on my drive. You know, like every time I show up, that set's still there. And then so I've got like the barbecue set has like some chill bass tunes and like vibey, like tribal trap kind of stuff, and then like a bunch of old school R&B and hip hop and remixes that are like half of that set. Whereas like, you know, I've got another set that was like, oh, this is going to be a jam. I think I'm going to be playing at like 1 or 2 a.m. So let me put like I've got like drum and bass and a bunch more house tunes and like a bunch more like heavy dubstep. So I can like read the crowd and see where that's going. And then also sprinkle in a bunch of those remixes in there. But then what I'll do is once I go through and I'll just make a large playlist of all these songs that I'm like, oh, that would probably go off at this party tomorrow. Then I'll just order that entire list manually by BPM. And so everything is chunked together around the BPM and I have more songs than I need. So as I'm coming around, be like, all right, we're coming up to the 128 BPM section. I've got like these bass house tunes and I've got these like slow, more like halftime tracks, like some slow trap. And then I've got like a couple of dubstep tracks. And so like depending on what the crowd's been responding to, I can skip or hit as many of these tracks as makes sense today. You know, maybe I've got time for like 60 tracks in this set, but I've got like 150 tracks in the set. And so I can just like vibe through it. And I know that even if I'm like hurried and I got distracted and I just got to pick whatever the next song is, at least it's the same tempo. So I'll have a really easy time of transitioning. And if I've got more time, I can like look ahead and see like, all right, how far do I want to go to get to the right song? And then like I had this set that I thought I was going to be playing at 1 a.m. and ended up playing from like 4 to 8 a.m. And so it ended up turning into a sunrise set. And it was really fun. Like it was like the beginning of it was still dark. So I was playing a lot of these heavier tunes, big drops, like kind of crazy shit. And then I could feel the energy change. And some people like started bringing out chairs and sitting down and vibing. And I just like ended up like skipping a bunch of songs just to get to the sunrisey songs. And then I switched to the barbecue playlist and I started playing a bunch of those songs. And then I found a 420 playlist from 2019 for the show I did in Spokane, Washington, and had all these like, it had like Mary Jane, some Erykah Badu, it had like, you know, Loonies, I got 5 on it, all this shit. So it was like everybody's sitting there up at 7:30 in the morning, like token up, and these are the perfect songs. And I just like kept bouncing like, oh, this playlist will be better now at this time in my set. And because I had all those previous sets that were really easy to navigate, it ended up being super easy just to like vibe with the crowd through the whole setup. And like my favorite part of the whole thing was actually like between 7 and 8 a.m. after like the crew came in who had set up all the speakers to tear down the big sound system. And I just cranked up the DJ booth speakers and just kept playing for them as they were loading. And then none of them left. Everybody just like hung out and watched the last hour of my set that I played. It was super fun. That was by far my favorite part of the set, because then I'd like pick somebody who was just standing and be like, okay, within the next 3 songs, you're gonna dance, fucker. And they're like, oh, that's all right. Awesome. It turned out Dua Lipa got you off your feet. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now that person over there. All right. What's going to get you? It was super fun.
Was it rhythm or psytrance that got them?
I have almost none of either in any of my sets.
That's why I asked.
Basically, like very little rhythm, pretty much, I think 0 actual psytrance.
That was like the formula for a long time. Every like 8 tracks or so, fake out into a psytrance.
I know, like why? And people also the thing where dubstep artists, the second drop always went full time and then back to halftime the next 2 bars, but the full time section was always just fucking cringe, like like the shittiest, annoyingest sounds, and then back to like halftime. Like, why did you go and ruin a good thing? The first drop was cool. Second drop is now terrible.
There's a lot of those type of songs where I just remember as I'm playing it. Like, yep, first drop only.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, speaking of Sunrise sets, I don't know why I thought of... Well, I know why I thought of this while you were talking. Because I saw a Sunrise set at Shambhala one time.
I was about to guess it was at Shambhala.
This is just a funny little anecdote. So, y'all know Destructo?
I know that name.
He makes like West Coast hip hop house music, right? So he had like he has songs with like Too Short, and he has songs with like Ty Dolla $ign. Like if you don't know Destructo, look up like the number 4 reel with Ty Dolla $ign. Like absolute banger. Like he makes some really good music, and it's like really clean and like not overproduced. Like it's like simple but brilliant. And so we were really excited to see him play a Sunrise set at Shams, and it was the cringiest shit, dude. He showed up and he was like, I don't know why, but this motherfucker kept holding up a Bible and going like, oh yeah, like pretending it was like a Sunrise sermon or something. And it was like so strange.
He said sunrise, not Sunday.
Like this guy just looked like such a cheese dick, like trying to like, I don't even know what he was doing, but it was so funny because he's like his sound is like kind of hard, like gangster, like rap house music. And it's like bass house with like rap stuff. And then he's just like pretending he's a shaman up there with like a Bible. Like, why do you have a Bible? Like, what the fuck? And it was just the funniest shit. Big up chat if you have ever been to Shams, or if you saw that set and are laughing along with me, type F in the chat for Destructo, because that was just terrible.
Type E sharp in the chat.
Yeah.
E sharps.
E double sharp. I was speaking of double sharps, I was looking up like jazz music theory because I'm a nerd, and like they actually notate like double sharps into some other weird little symbol that I've never seen before. Y'all ever seen that?
I know I've seen musical notation that I didn't understand.
Like if you're
like sharps? Most of it in
general. Yeah, no. So like for instance, like, you know, in jazz, like a sharp 5 or a sharp 6 or sharp 7 or whatever, they're common. But if it's already like an F sharp and you're making a sharp 5, then it's like F sharp sharp, which is then G with a little thingy next to it.
You have multiple notes that are the same thing, like in a key, you can't have E, A, C, and C sharp. It's got to be what? A, B sharp, C sharp, even though B sharp is not a
B flat sharp.
B flat sharp, sharp.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, that.
Like fractions, sure. They just cancel each other out.
Things you need not know while DJing.
Right. Yeah.
Also,
that's
like
not on the
jazz
Camelot wheel.
jazz chords have like 6 notes in every chord, and I just can't. The way that I write chords is like a note at a time. And so if I look up like a nice jazz chord to start with, and I throw all 6 of those notes in there, and then my brain is like, okay, where do each of these notes resolve to in the next chord? I'm not getting there.
Yeah.
I'm not getting there. Like some of my favorite music that I've ever written is 2 notes. 2 notes. Like
Power chord.
not even
2
a
notes, and
like
it's perfect.
two notes that are 11 semitones apart. Like
Oh,
Yes.
why?
Good
yeah,
old
that's
major
pretty
7.
jazzy.
Why? Like Don't Come Home, that the whole piano in that is 2 notes at a time. But it sounds like way more notes, and like I've never understood that. Like 2 notes with an interesting harmony can be like better than 6 note chords that like fill out the whole thing. Like just something to keep in mind for you listeners at home. 2 notes is sometimes better than 6.
And sometimes all you got to do is just like wheel up, spin back, and just drop fucking House of Pain on the party.
It's true. True.
You heard it here first.
Pack it
I would
up.
do that if I would
pack
do
it
that
in.
if I heard Nero do it, I would do that. But
Yeah, but then you'd be biting Nero. You got to do it so he hears you. And it's like, damn, this Rip Kenny guy though.
That's
Man,
how
I remember
don't think
being
that's
at a
ever gonna
party.
happen.
I remember being at a
That's the
party
spirit.
with this
buddy.
guy Rip Kenny and handing him the decks after my set, and this dude just comes straight out the gate and just plays like Linkin Park
I
and
did.
then The Prodigy.
I did.
Not
I
no,
literally-
not a Linkin Park remix, just
No.
Linkin Park, not reanimated. Nope,
No.
Hybrid Theory.
I literally played Paper Cut by Linkin Park to open the set.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know why I wanted to do that, but
Man, that's another fire tip,
I
actually.
just did.
Now that you bring it up. Honestly, it's like, besides the batching tracks rule, probably the only other thing. Oh, and I'm more like you, Luke, where I do the bare like minimum on each setup so it's translatable. Man, shit, I lost my train of thought. What was this?
Train wreck.
Yeah. Honestly, the I find if I just have my first 2 tracks planned out, that's enough to get me into flow, and I don't think about the rest.
Dude,
The
absolutely.
worst thing is going up to the decks and you're like, fuck, what was that? What am I gonna start with actually? Like, just decide on those first 2 tracks and then just let the
my
night unfold.
If you do not listen to another single word of this podcast or tuned out doing whatever you were doing before and didn't listen to any of the first 50 minutes of this podcast, listen to this. The first transition in any DJ set is the one that you get your nerves out. And therefore, you should have this one dialed, because when you step up there and you're like, oh my God, how do I operate this Pioneer rocket ship that costs 4 times what it should? And you step up there and you're a little nervous. You press and play on the first one. That's easy. You probably knew what you were going to play. If you didn't, you already fucked up what I'm talking about. Don't do that. Probably know what you're going to play as your intro song, and then have the next song you're going to play also ready to go, and you know how they transition. It should be a really smooth, good sounding transition. That once you get through that first transition, you're like, oh, right, this rocket ship is actually just an overpriced piece of shit and not that complicated. So the rest of this is going to go really well. But that first transition, you're like, oh my God, my arms are shaking. I can barely move the little knobs and faders. Like, what am I doing? I'm going to train wreck. And then you get through the first transition. You're like, oh yeah, cool. Like this. Oh, right. This is actually fun. I forgot this shit was fun because I was so goddamn nervous because I didn't want to fuck this up. Now that I got through the first one, I remembered that I've practiced for this and I know what I'm doing and I have a bunch of good music to play. This is fun. I'm going to have fun. This is already fun. The first one went good. So it's so important that the first transition goes well. Do what Tesko said. Have the first 2 songs super extra, eyes closed, pants down, dialed. Because it's going to make the whole thing so much better.
Yeah, your DJ set will get a lot more attention if your pants are down.
DJ
Although
crap
most
my
of the people,
pants.
depending on the DJ table, they might not even be able to tell.
True.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I completely agree with you. I think, like, especially if you got some nerves about the set, like, just knowing how to get through that first little bit till you get in flow is super important. But one thing I like about where I'm at now with it, where like I'm really comfortable DJing, just because I got my little, like, between songs ritual. Like, I'll like stop the song that I just transitioned out of and immediately pick the next song and load it onto the deck. So now I've got up to like 3.5 minutes to dance before I even have to do work. Like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, time to slow down. Like, I can actually enjoy this party, as opposed to be like, oh fuck, I was supposed to get another song up. But like once that happens,
shout out if you take 3 minutes to find the next song because you're indecisive.
That's why I order everything by tempo. So it's like, man, worst case scenario, whatever the fucking BPM gods lined up for me is good enough. Like, I already picked good music to put in record box, and then I narrowed that down to good music for this specific room on this night. I'll be fine. If I play all these tracks in the random order that it happened, it will work. Was it the best possible transition? Who gives a fuck? You moved from cool song A to cool song B and people didn't stop dancing. You are a success as a DJ.
Yeah. Oh my God. You just also touched on the second most important thing. If you didn't listen to the first, at least listen to this one. If you fuck up, they're only going to care if you do. That, like, let me repeat that. If you fuck up, the crowd is only going to care if you do. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen someone performing and they absolutely, like, Zed's dead. I'm literally wearing their fucking shirt. Zed's dead. Performing at Shambhala was like this big build up. They brought this other song in. They're about to transition to the next song. Goes to drop. Fucking crickets. Nothing plays. They must have turned off the wrong song, and it was
been there before.
And they didn't go, oh my God, fuck you, what did you do? No, that was your fault, you picked the wrong song. Fuck you, man, you just ruined our set. Like, no, he literally just goes into the mic, let's try that again, and woo, and just plays from the build-up. And everyone was like, yeah, they're human. Like, this is cool. We're still having fun. Like, no one cares. Like, the biggest artists in the world still will fuck up. They're probably more liable to fuck up because they're sleep deprived, flying from here to there. They don't know what time zone they're in. They probably don't even know where they're at. They're like, hey, Detroit,
weird,
like, you're in Canada, man. Yeah, exactly. Playing on some weird, overpriced piece of shit computers. No, but like, literally, even the most talented DJs in the world will still train wreck, and it is okay. Like, all you got to do is laugh it off and play the next song. People are going to forget in 2 minutes. Like, if you fuck up a transition, don't stop dancing. Don't fume in your head about it. Like, the next song's already playing. That's fine. If you completely train wreck and go to silence, you might want to just throw your hands up like, hey, I don't know what I did there, and then play the next song. Like, it's okay.
Howl like a wolf at the moon.
Yeah.
Ow, ow, and press play, and people probably just howl with you, not knowing why they're doing it. Yeah,
exactly.
For real.
It's okay. Just don't let it bother you. That's the most important thing about screwing up all DJing.
And once you realize that shit, DJing's easy. And like,
really
at this point, like, I just set up a set where the tempos go all the way around the horn. They start back over at the bottom, and I'll just like,
what do you mean?
Like, whatever. When you set up record box, you pick a tempo range, right? And wherever it doubles, it starts over to the bottom. So if you like 80 to 160, right, is your range, or maybe you go 70 to 140 is your range, right?
Yeah.
And so I just have tracks usually in all of my sets that go all the way around the horn because I love playing multiple genre shit, right? So I'll be walking up to the DJ and I'll say to a homie or somebody dance, be like, yo, what tempo should I start at? I'm like, I don't know, 125. Cool. I wonder what songs I got at 125. That's where I'll start today. Oh, this is a good one. Boom, I'll start here.
You didn't listen to the most important rule we already talked about.
I know, but you said if I didn't listen to that one, I just got to listen to whatever I was talking about, and I already know that shit.
I'm just fucking.
So I stopped paying attention halfway through me talking. You know,
if you're confident that you're not going to fuck up the transition, it doesn't matter what you play. But for nervous perfectionists,
nervous purpose
like myself, I like to have the first two things I'm going to play dialed.
A, Linkin Park. What was the B?
More Linkin Park.
It actually was Zed's Dead after Linkin Park.
Hey.
Because the paper cut was at like 135, which is kind of a weird tempo, and Zed's Dead had a dubstep song at like 68 or something. So I was like, it's close enough. Actually, pro tip, do not like unlike what Luke said, if you're not super comfortable with the CDJ, please do not actually have tempos that go around the horn, because when you forgot that sync was on and you load the next song and it's synced and that 140 song goes to 70, it doesn't, the supercomputer inside the CDJ that you paid fucking $3,000 for doesn't know that that's a multiple and should go together. It will slow the song down by half. And
that
then
happened to me in that Bellingham show we did.
It happened to me too. And then you realize as these first couple chords are coming in, man, this sounds slow.
This song's intro is way longer than I thought.
Holy shit. It is playing at half the speed that it needs to be. And this is the only thing playing. I'm not transitioning. Like, it's too late. It's too late to change it now. It is playing at half speed. What do? I don't know how to operate this rocket ship because I can't afford to buy one in my own home. God damn it. I just start mashing buttons and eventually get it to just jump back to there's a button that says tempo reset. And I'm like, that's what I need. And I hit that button. All of a sudden it slaps back to twice the speed. And it's this jarring wham in the middle of a vocal that's just like, oh God.
That's hilarious. Like, yeah, that is one of those weird moments. And again, one of the reasons I stopped fucking with the tempo sync, because I can just look at it and be like, oh, that one's at 80, this one's at 160, just make a match. Like, I know I can make a match just visually, right? But the best part is, at that Bellingham show, I lined up Tesko's homies. We got homies in the club for the homies, man. And I didn't realize it was tempo synced on half speed. And I like get it lined up. I'm like, all right, cool. The waveforms are looking right, blah, blah, blah. Transition over. And I'm like, this is sounding strange. It's taking, oh, fuck. I see what happened. And then it hits the drop at halftime. And I'm just sitting there laughing and shaking my head, trying to play it off. And this dude from the other side of the room sprints to the front, right up to the DJ table and goes, this is what the fuck I'm talking about! And he loses his shit. It's his favorite moment of the entire night. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just let this shit ride.
Dude. No way.
It literally just exactly like that. And it was like, all right, cool. That'll work.
Oh my God, dude.
So even if the worst happens, it's usually not the worst. Especially like Rip Kenny said, if you don't react like it's a fuck up, people will think you're a genius sometimes. For a happy accident.
Don't stop the music, and there's very little you can do wrong.
Oh yeah. God. I'm fucking speechless. That is potentially the best DJ story I've heard maybe ever.
It's one of my favorite moments for sure.
This is what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, dude, it's the worst. It's the worst.
It sounded cool. Like, the song still sounded good.
Well, Tesko's an absolute production master, so it's gonna sound good.
That song's a banger either way.
But
honestly, though, it's funny because like the new X DJ I've been using lately
doesn't do that.
It works. Like, you press sync on it, and like it's like, oh yeah, obviously these are just like doubles of it, and they get the math now.
So they upgraded the computer in the one that's a quarter of the cost.
Yes, they did that.
Just making my point for me, Pioneer. Y'all are monkeys trying to operate a spaceship.
I like XDJs. I think they're like the sweet spot for Pioneer gear.
An XDJ should be $500. CDJs and a mixer should be 1500. Fuck you, Pioneer.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm down.
Man,
See
dude,
if we can get
I
that
literally
trending.
I have nothing else to say after that story. If we're talking about DJing today and you tell a story after all of this stuff in which you commit the cardinal sin of leaving a track on halftime all the way to the drop and let the drop happen at half the speed the song is supposed to play, and some guy, that is the highlight of some dude in the club's night. That
fucking
is
35 BPM dubstep.
There's literally nothing else we can teach you besides that. Is literally that's the end of the train tracks. That is literally like that's
Watch
it.
out. If the tracks end, we're definitely going to train wreck.
Amen to that.
Well, I think it sounds like we wrapped this one up, fellas.
It does.
This is a
All
fun
right.
episode.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
I mean-
humans.
With that, another one in the books.
Peace. And peace among worlds.
Train wrecks among worlds.
Amen.
The Trainwreck Podcast for humans.
All right, thank y'all so much for being here with us. We appreciate all of you humans. Make sure to get that song of the week. Go support that, stream it, buy it, play it in your DJ sets. That's Tesko featuring Squashed Out, called For the Homies. All those links are down below, right next to our sponsors, Dojo TV. Get some free producer live stream classes. No reason not to do it. And you get access to the Dojo Discord, where you can meet a whole bunch of other cool producers learning the ropes just like you. Next up, go get the weekly download, where you can learn directly from Il Gates in his private weekly group lessons and get access to over 250 more episodes in the archive for just $20 a month. And finally, guest practices, where you can learn from Seth Drake at the Approach Institute. He's the best engineer we know, and your first class is free. Visit thehumanmusicpodcast.com to get some free sound packs, find all our socials, follow us at The Human Music Podcast or at Human Music Pod on Twitter. You know, make sure to follow me at Luke Rain Music or at What Would Trap Jesus Do, Rip Kenny at Rip Kenny Music, and Tesko at I Am Tesko. And make sure to come back next week, where we are interviewing the one and only Albie, a new up-and-comer in the Producer Dojo label. All right. Appreciate all you humans. Till next week, peace and peace among worlds. I like it.